Hi, host Eric here with host Ken and with homie from Scotland by the name of Jonathan. And we've got these 27 tri-type archetypes, which you can see now on the screen if you are viewing this video, but you cannot see on the screen if you are in the room. It says here the various names. Okay. So yes, I believe Jonathan just asked me if I think I'm a 783. I think I'm a 783. I think in that order.
Okay, it's just that David Grace, Chad, he identifies as 837. So just thought.
Wait, say again.
Interesting. Damon or Chad, he identifies as 837. So kind of interesting.
Yeah, because what I was going to say is that even a possible type 783? Shouldn't it be 3738?
No, why not?
Oh, because I'm just looking at the tri-types and the breakdowns.
No, that's. Oh yeah, that's just. They're just being quick about it. You can have the exact order matters, and so 837 and 873 are both possible tri-types.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you a question regarding the tri-types and how they associate. Because I'm looking at the graph right now where it has the breakdown of 918. I mean, not 9. I think it's 912. I don't know. I think 912. Give me a second right here. 891, which is the piece. I'm not sure if it's the anger.
891 is part of the tri. They're not tri-type. They're triads or the sets of intelligence. Okay,
then we have 234, which is part of it. The heart, and then we have 567. And when I first got into tri-type, I thought it was okay. So you got to pick one from each bracket. And so when I went to it, I was like, okay, for the head one, or not the head one, the anger one, whatever it's called.
Body.
The body or the instinct triad. 891.
Yeah, I associated more with the number 1. And when I rolled over to the other one, to the 234, I associated myself more as with the 4. And then when I jumped over, I saw the 7, and a generalist, kind of whatever thing. So I chart myself type as a 147. I didn't know that you had to go look into your functions more deeply and whatever. But when I read the description of the 147, I actually kind of nailed nailed me pretty good. But when I did the socionics types tests and stuff like that, some of the percentages came back differently, and it was telling me that I was more of a 513.
Okay, I take the test as well. So I type as 152. Every time I've taken the test, I've got type 4 or type 5, and my tri-type results have been 459, which is still a difference. I think part of the reason is the tests are just not very good. They're not very reliable.
Don't listen to the test.
Even in some of the books I've read, they've pointed that out. They're not always reliable. And that's partly the reason I get type 4 and type 5. And the reason you might get type 5 is because we're INGs.
That's another thing. I was going to say that when I took the test, it would vary from 153 or 154 because those two would be like right near each other. I didn't actually have one that was specifically more dominant than the other.
I want to talk about that 3-4 thing a little bit more too before I get your response on this, Jonathan. But to me, I think ENTPs generally go from 4 to 3, at least in how they display over the course of their late adolescence, 20s. They tend to be very rebellious and reject social mores, and then
well, the thing is, ENTPs are actually very unlikely to have 4 in the tri-type at all. I'm not saying it'll never ever happen, but it's quite rare, and that's because type 4 is a very FI type. It's very much about your feelings. So you're the individualist. It's not necessarily about rebelling, but you're the individualist because of your feelings, because you're judging things by how you feel, and you're in touch with your own emotions, and you want to express your own emotions. And it's about how real your emotions are and how raw they are.
That's a bad word for it then, because
artistic expression. Yes, it is. It's the same with any typology system, whether it's MBTI or Enneagram or whatever. The names are always going to be misleading in one way or another.
Yeah, I don't like that individualism name because, from a sort of political perspective or from a general philosophy perspective, ENTPs are ultra individualistic.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yes, I mean I'm a type 1. That's the reformer. That's the perfectionist. So on. That doesn't mean the other types won't be reformers or won't be perfectionists, or they won't have that streak in them. Even if they don't have one in their tri-type, they can sometimes have that streak in them. It's just the names.
So which function you associate 4 with FI? Which function do you associate 3 with?
Well, I should say I associate with FI and intuition, so I wouldn't associate them. I don't like associating
FI and I.
I don't like associating the functions with Enneagram directly. I just think there's a lot of overlap. So Type 3 is more. Type 3 is out of touch with their feelings. They're putting their feelings aside in order to achieve and get the work done. They're swallowing their shame and so on. So Type 3 is very much, first of all, is very much not FI, to the point where if you're an INFP or an INFJ or whatever, INFJs are strong FI as well, you will probably not be a 3, you may not even have 3 in your tri-type. It might be a bit more FE, Type 3, because it's more about how other people feel and adapting to how they feel about you or how they think they see about you. But I could also see it being quite TE, I could see it being quite SE, so it's tricky when you get to the functions. And there is a book that tries and doesn't really work. There is a book that tries to associate each type with a function. They say that Type 3 doesn't really associate with any Jungian function at all.
It's like Enneagram says, it associates with your relationship with shame in the sense that you're responding to the potential for being lesser than you think you ought to be by either achieving or by... But see, this is why I think individualism, I guess what it really should say is intrinsic worth instead. Like, extrinsic affirmation is 3, intrinsic worth is 4, then extrinsic results is 2. Something like that, you know?
No. Again, we're all just really simplifying it here. Like, they just come up. I've seen this with lots of typological systems, including ones that are much more mainstream, so more mainstream psychology. They give them names, and immediately they run into problems because the names are misleading. And one of the reasons I like Enneagram is because they give you names, but they also give you numbers, and the numbers are much more unbiased. You know, 4. That's that you're a 4. That's why we prepare that. And same with MBTI. You know, INFJ is called the counselor, and so on. INTJ is called the mastermind and the scientist. Plenty of INTJs are not scientists. I've yet to meet an INTJ who's anything like a mastermind at all. But that's what they're called.
Yeah, I could see that because I just like to experiment on people and do things like that. I'm not sure if that kind of scientist works out for you or not, but that's where I'm more in the field. Like, don't get me wrong, I can deal with chemicals and stuff like that and atoms and particles and stuff, but yeah. I would need the tools and stuff to do that. And like right now, I don't really have the funds and capability of doing that, so I just do my own science on people.
Yeah, and there's plenty of INTJs who have no interest in science at all, so that's...
Okay. I have I have a question I want to run by you real quick, if you think it's a good question. The question is this. You read an article about something that is really awful, some kids being really cruel to some other kids, let's say. Now, is your response, which you most likely to respond? You want justice? You want to see the perpetrators get their due and for the victims to be vindicated? Do you want to figure out the source of the problem and make sure that whatever causing these kids to be so mean to each other, we fix that? Or do you want to say we need concrete rules and protocols in place to make sure nothing like that ever happens again? That being a question to distinguish between 8, 9, and 1.
No, because it's much more. There are questions. There are people who ask questions like there are. tests like that. But when you get down to the individual level, and it's not going to work. It's just too.
Well, I mean, how is 8 not justice? How is 8 not justice?
It is justice, and they can feel it. They can feel that way, but they can also feel it the other two ways. That's more of an individualist.
Well, sure, nobody is going to respond uniformly 100% to the predicted type, but there's no doubt that 8 represents justice and that 9 represents peacemaking, right? In some sense.
Yes, but ones also represent justice. Ones want justice as well, so.
That's a good point.
I could see myself reacting in all 3 ways to that.
I think that's why you gotta ask it as a question verbally rather than a test question that you've written out.
No, these, in my experience, the way I'll answer questions depends all on my mood and what I'm going through at a particular time. So it's not. I see questions more as a guide, but not necessarily. I don't place too much stock in them. I'd see them as a starting point. I much prefer going into in depth and going into the research and so on. So, yeah.
Yeah, not so much what the question is or what the answer is, but how they answer it.
Yeah, I can give you clues, I suppose, but it's. I wouldn't. It's not sufficient. It would give you. It might help if you're undecided between one of those types.
Well, Saren, how would you answer that question? Justice? Figure out what's wrong with the community? Or set up protocols to prevent it from happening again?
All 3.
You can only pick one, though.
Probably go with justice, but
Okay, but see, this is a follow-up question. Follow-up question. Okay, so you probably go with justice, but you can see setting up rules. So, what is your justification for justice?
I'll be the judger, and if you break my rules, I'm going to come after you.
No, I mean, what is your justification for justice existing at all? Like, why do we need it?
Right or wrong. If you don't have something that's going not fair to everybody else and not necessarily associating or not being ideal to what people want, then it's not working. And if someone else has a better idea, a better plan to go along that path, I'd pursue down that course.
So, you see, that it ends up being revelatory of super TE, right? Like, that's a super TE answer. An NTP would answer it, well, because individuals have fundamental rights that can't be violated. You know?
Yeah, screw your right. That's why.
Is that the answer you were looking for there, Eric? Screw your rights.
I mean, I just thought that's where the conversation went. It's 13 minutes. Is that the end of this video, Ken?
Depends. Are you done talking about this particular segment?
Yeah, it's at 13 minutes.
No, that's fine. You can start a new one.